And we're here with another episode of Before You Buy, that show where we give you some straight-up gameplay and our first impressions of the latest games releasing. As usual, it's me, Jake Baldino, and today we're talking about Devil May Cry 5. This is a big deal for us fans. It's been a long time since a mainline numbered Devil May Cry. I mean, 4 came out in 2008, which feels like a million years ago. I'm happy to confirm that if you were looking for a return to form in any way, or even just a good continuation of the original series, Devil May Cry 5 is great. It's so much fun, although I wish the story gave me a little more. I'll get to that. I've had my hands on a review copy for some time now, completed it twice, and for housekeeping, this is Xbox One X footage, and I've kept it as spoiler-free as possible, only showing early, kind of out-of-context cutscenes, although some small gameplay elements might be counted as a spoiler for some if you're extra sensitive, so just be mindful. But really, Devil May Cry 5 is a triumph of video game combat. Freedom, challenge, and flexibility make it so unique for a hack-and-slash game of this style. There are 3 characters you play through the game as. Sometimes, for story reasons in chapters, you're restricted to one character. Other times, you have the ability to just choose which one you want to play as. So, let's break them down. Nero returns from Devil May Cry 4, and he pretty much retains his charm despite, initially coming off kind of like a rebranded edgelord. He's pretty likable, and his badassery swims just underneath the cringe line. Combat-wise, he's a bit more deliberate and methodical of the group. He's only so mobile with simple dodges and jumps. He has a Red Queen sword he can rev up with more power, the Blue Rose revolver to blast enemies around and hold for charge shots. But the big thing, of course, is the Devil Breakers. He no longer has a devil arm, now he has a gadgety arm with a bit more variety. The Devil Breaker system might seem like a gimmick at first, but it really adds an impressive amount of variety to Nero's combat. There are tons to buy and equip between missions and just find and pick up in the world. Now, they are expendable. They all have various uses. Some electrify and stun enemies, some fly around autonomously and punch, and you can even ride on one like a hoverboard. They're ridiculous, but also really strategic. They often work like the push-pull mechanic of the arm in Devil May Cry 4, but with some nice twists. You can do a use or hold the button and do a stronger use that is often expendable. Plus, if you get hit while using your arm abilities, it will break, so there's like a big risk-reward to consider. The only way to use your other ones in your inventory are to use up or self-destruct the one you currently have equipped in your slot. So the game really pushes you to use them all pretty recklessly and just kind of experiment and have fun, and I appreciate that. Next up, combat character-wise, there's the newcomer, V. His combat is the simplest, but it also serves as like a really nice little palate cleanser, a breather. V hangs back from the battle and controls demonic spirits. The melee attack button and the shooting button both serve as individual command buttons for each creature, and you really only dive in as V to finish enemies off with a fatal blow. He can also summon like this big lumbering golem called Nightmare that kinda sucks, but it can help out in a pinch. Now, V's stuff is not as challenging as the rest, and it is nowhere near as precise as the combat for the other characters, but like I said, it's a nice change of pace, and it's not overused either. It does not outstay its welcome. Now, as a big Dante fanboy, I've been obsessed since when Devil May Cry 1 originally released back in the day. I am so happy that he gets his time to shine and once again pretty much steals the show, even more so than in Devil May Cry 4. He plays pretty close to how Dante always has, but he has a drastically bigger arsenal, and you can swap between up to 4 guns and 4 melee weapons on the fly and mid-combo. There's even more to that. It's all insanity. I'm not going to get into all the weapons, but for spoiler's sake, but he does have Devil Trigger, he has Ebony and Ivory, he has his trusty shotgun, various different swords throughout the story, but the Cerberus nunchucks make a welcome return with stance changes that trigger them into different shapes. Same goes for the hand-to-hand Balrog weapon. You can kind of trigger them into different positions. But the biggest one, for me, is the new weapon, the Cavalier. If you've seen the trailers, it's the big motorcycle handsaw things. Now, I'm not the one who usually goes for like the big, heavy, gimmicky weapons in games, but these things are so damn awesome in combat, and they flow so nicely thanks to timing your button presses. It's satisfying to use and perfect to switch mid-combo to just finish an enemy off with a long saw swipe. On top of all of this, Dante still has his other stance changes from previous games, like emphasizing one area, Trickster, Gunslinger, Swordmaster, Royal Guard. This adds yet another layer, not only because it gives you, new little abilities to grow as you spend orbs on them, but because it changes up how you use certain weapons too. Again, it's insane. It's easy to have fun, but there's always plenty of room for like extreme skill-based mastery if you want to take it there. It's just a lot of fun. Like in other Devil May Cry games, this one is completely straightforward and feels even more combat-based than ever. You pretty much walk straight, come to an open area, a battle starts, you kill everything, the red gate blocking you opens up, and you move forward, rinse, repeat. Combat is the name of the game here. There's nothing else really other than a few platforming sections. That might bother some people, I don't know, but for me, the fact that combat was so deep, challenging, and the main focus here, I didn't mind that the environments got kind of stale about halfway through the game. They all started to look like the same gross, bloody, demonic hallway. There's some variation, but I was over it, and honestly, I expected more. Especially because the game looks so damn good. It's on the Resident Evil engine that powered Resident Evil 7 and the Resident Evil 2 remake, and goddamn, does it make everything look good, even if the environments did get a bit stale. Characters look incredible, borderline uncanny valley. Dante and Nero's facial expressions in particular are really advanced, and the game is just so nice to see in motion. Big ups to them for including a photo mode, too. It's a simple one, it's not like ultra featured or anything, but you can appreciate the character models and all the effects and stuff at once. Story-wise, though, it's after Devil May Cry 4. Nero is hunting demons of his own until his demon arm is ripped off by a mysterious person, and a demonic tree presence called the Clyfoth takes over this Redguard city with a new, gross, powerful demon king at the top of it. So Nero teams up with mechanics weapons master Nico to get revenge for his arm and maybe figure out what's going on. And of course, it gets a little more complex once things get rolling, especially when Dante gets involved. There are a couple of cool boss battles, and it's paced nicely with cutscenes before and after every mission, pretty much what you'd expect if you played one of these games, but ultimately, I was left wanting more. First and foremost, it's way simpler of an affair than Devil May Cry 4, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. There are far less gigantic lore stuff. Devil May Cry 4 had a ton of characters. Here, it's way more simple. The cast is really small, but the problem is the game didn't do a good job of making me care about the new characters. Halfway through, the game kind of forgets what to do with Nico, and I feel like V ultimately felt unexplored and had wasted potential. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some incredible revelations in the story, 2 or 3 big things, one of which has huge ramifications for the series as a whole, but it just felt cut short. It felt like just when the game was getting somewhere, it was over. I'm not unsatisfied by the ending completely, but I just want more. I want Devil May Cry 6 now, and I want it to not take years and years of waiting. I know, I'm greedy, but the foundation here, the combat and the new changes in the story going forward are really exciting for the future of the Devil May Cry series, man. I've seen people be a little weary that it's a bit on the shorter side. It didn't feel too short to me, but I think if you're a purist anyway, you need to play through it at least twice. The combat is deep enough for it, and the first playthrough is far too easy. Son of Sparta mode, the next difficulty you unlock after normal, is a bit more of a satisfying experience. If you're really hardcore, they're also adding Bloody Palace in an update down the line, which is something to play through, and I'm looking forward to that. The game is also nice enough to just give you something called The Void, which serves as like a training room, similar to what fighting games have, and it's a really nice addition. And also, there was some hubbub about the microtransactions in this game before release. You can use real-world money to purchase red orbs, the main currency in the game to unlock upgrades and items and stuff. By the end of my first playthrough, I unlocked 90% of unlockables. Partway into my second run, which I think is necessary, I got the rest of them. No grinding, no need to buy in. The option to do so isn't in your face. I'm not shilling, I'm just being straight. It doesn't sour the experience. But at the end of the day, that stuff still doesn't belong in a single-player traditional game, but I also just wanted to get the word out there that I don't think personally that it affects the experience. Ultimately, though, that's what Devil May Cry is, a straightforward, single-player, traditional game. A good old-fashioned video game, a beginning-to-end experience. It's paced fairly well, it's challenging, and it's so much fun. I don't think it's my favorite Devil May Cry adventure. I've been a big fat fanboy since day one, like I said, but this is absolutely a damn good entry in the series, and I like where it's going forward. If you're new, I'd say at the very least maybe catch up with DMC 3 or 4, or really just watch a YouTube video and get yourself acquainted with Dante and his family drama. And if you're a fan, obviously check it out. But of course, this is a before you buy. I give you some pros, some cons, some personal opinion thrown in there, so now I definitely want to hear yours. The game isn't out yet. This review is out a couple days before it releases, but I want to know your expectations. I want to know your hopes and dreams of the series. I want to know your favorite character. Let's talk about anything Devil May Cry down in the comments. If you got anything else for me, if you want to yell at me on Twitter or Instagram, be sure to hit me up at Jake Baldino. But of course, guys, if you learned anything from this video and appreciated it, clicking the like button is the best way you can help us out, and we would really appreciate that. But if you're new, it's worth subscribing because we put out videos every single day. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.
You taking notes? All right, time to kick some ass.